So let me pull that up real quick and I can go down the list. If there's anybody that I missed, they can chime in. So right now I've got Jim Badowich. I've got,
Check.
what's that?
Check.
Yeah. I've got Josh, who's filling in for Craig from Buckeye, Warren White, AJ, Karen, Carl Rockwell, of course, yourself, Dan Neeson, Jose Rodriguez, Matthew Bryan, David Mobley, Greg Gronberg, Jeff Hearn, Brian Gallimore, and Christina. Did I miss anybody?
Okay, excellent. So we'll go ahead and get started here. And our first item is the call to the audience. And in this particular meeting, anyone in the audience would be attending via technological means. Members of the public may access the link to watch a video stream on the MAG website by clicking on the view and listen link provided under the related links section at the www.azmag.gov/event/25647. Members of the public may submit written comments relating to this meeting to the www.azmag.gov/comment within 1 hour of the posted start time for the meeting. Gordon, have we had any comments or any requests from the public to this point?
I haven't received any, no.
Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the June 3rd, 2020 meeting minutes. If anyone wants to take a few minutes to review those.
They were included as part of the agenda packet that was posted for this meeting. Peter, are you happen to be on the Galaxy Note 9?
I just called in, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Warren. I'll second.
Thank you, Warren and AJ. I think because of the format, we need to do a roll call vote, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So I just pulled up the sheet. The only people who actually have to vote on it are the member agencies. So I can note them down here as you call them.
Okay. Avondale.
And remember, you may need to unmute yourself.
Okay. We'll come back. Buckeye.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
El Mirage. I think El Mirage is not present.
Not present.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Glendale, Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa is a yes. Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Scottsdale's not present.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Youngtown, and back to Avondale.
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone we missed? Okay. The meeting's passed. What do you know? Moving on to item number 4, an ADQ update on the AAC Title 18, Chapter 5, Article 5, Bulletin 10. Discussion and updates of the upcoming revisions to water and sewer regulations in Bulletin 10, the process and how to provide comment. I believe someone from our water and sewer working group was going to provide an update for us.
We did have, I think it was John Hunt. Is that correct, Gordon?
Yes.
Yeah, he attended our meeting, the working group meeting on the 23rd of last month, and really, he didn't have an update of it, just, again, with the governor being pretty well occupied with the COVID stuff. So, but I think the comment section or comment time is still open for people that want to make comments on it.
Yes, and his contact information and the website, I put in the minutes from the working group meeting. I can pull those up just for a second, but those you can also download from the website. So john.hunt@azdeq, and then this is the web page that they're posting the information about it.
Okay, excellent. So encourage you to go back to your agencies and discuss with those that may be interested and provide comments. I know there's a couple elements in there that this group has been interested in. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 5, these are the carry forward cases from 2019. Case number 19-04, revisions to section 360, an update on the telecommunications installation specifications. And Warren, do you have an update for us?
Yes, I do. There should be an update in your packet, and based on the comments from our last meeting, a couple minor revisions, and then we had a follow-up after the meeting with Dan Nissen and some other folks that have been part of the working group to refine a few things. We made an update to Dan provided a good summary for one of the sections. So let me just go through that with you all.
I have pulled that up on the screen sharing.
Oh, that helps. Thanks, Gordon. So yeah, in section 360.3, I removed the diameter size requirement in that first paragraph and moved the highlighted section or the highlighted paragraph or words there. So I added the shall be placed in the diameter and quantity as specified on the plans. Okay, does that look okay to everyone?
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about previously.
Correct. Well, thanks, Ryan. And then down in section 360.4, this is the paragraph that we revised and simplified to update it to current processes. So the title of that did change to conduit identification and detection. And that paragraph, as mentioned, Dan did a good job at simplifying it, and everyone in our working group seemed to like it as well. And I don't know if Dan's had a chance to circulate that out to the utility community or not to get feedback. Dan?
I did have a chance to send it out. I asked everybody to have comments back to me by June 30th, and I received no comments.
Okay, well, that's good news. So I'll let everyone take a look and read that and see if they think that that's a good addition.
Okay, so what's the goal for voting on this case? Are we at the point where next meeting we should be voting on it?
That, as long as we've circulated it and sounds like Dan has, I think we are ready to vote on it this next meeting.
Dan, do you have any concerns with voting on this next meeting?
No, I agree with Warren.
Okay. I know this has been through quite a few iterations and it kind of grew in length and now it's kind of shrunk back in length. So it doesn't look like it's real complicated. I hope that everyone's had a chance to review that and discuss it with your agencies. So we'll go ahead and plan on a vote for next month for this case.
One thing that's kind of related to this case, but not specifically any text changes or anything, was remember earlier this year we had a presentation by Crown Castle on the micro trenching. They were back at MAG's Transportation Policy Committee giving a similar presentation to a lot of the mayors that are on that committee. So I know that's something that they're still pushing, and at that meeting they were talking about wanting to do some test programs in different cities with the micro trenching. So if they haven't contacted your city, and they may be coming around at some point.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, didn't we talk about this several years ago, like with Scottsdale?
Yes, and then they made a presentation at MAG last year again.
Yeah, there was a lot of concerns about it.
At this time, is there an agency that's proposing to lead a requested change in MAG, or is that still up in the air?
I don't think anyone has made the request, but the presenters were asked to come in by the chair of the TPC at the time, which was Mayor Wires of Glendale.
Right. Okay. Okay, well, we'll stay tuned for more on that. Moving on then, case number 6, or item number 6, case number 19-09, use section 626. There was a recent update to that. This is on corrosion coating of sanitary sewer manholes, originally based on the City of Phoenix supplements. And Jim, do you have any discussion on this for us today? I know that we're looking for possible action today, but if you want to walk us through this one last time, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I just did some minor updates that were brought up at the last meeting, and you can see just the ones that are in yellow. That was what was discussed, and we added those in. We discussed it at the working group meeting on the 23rd of last month, and we didn't have any further discussion or further comments, and I didn't get any other comments otherwise. So I think this wraps this up, and I know I asked for a vote last time. So I'm ready for a vote right now. If anybody else has any discussions, we can talk about it now if they want.
Are there any questions from the committee on this particular section, or are there any other discussion items on it? Okay,
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't sound like it. So let's go ahead and vote on this case then.
We'll need someone to make the motion in a second before.
Okay.
This is Carl. I'll make a motion to approve it.
This is Warren. I'll second it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, pulling up our voting summary, we'll go in order here again. Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage, Gilbert,
Yes.
Hill. Goodyear. Maricopa County.
Yes.
Case is a yes. Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale. Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Youngtown. Okay, looks like it's unanimous. 9 yeas.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on that, Jim. I
Yeah.
know that was a long process for you. And I think the same can be said about our next case, item number 7, case 19-11, revisions to section 611. Revisions to section 611 to add sanitary sewer manhole vacuum testing based on City of Phoenix supplements. And similarly, Jim, will you give us an update on this particular case, and we'll see if we want to take action on it.
Okay, yes, thank you. Again, the copy in front of you there is the yellow highlighted is only the recent change. All the other changes are in red and underlined. Again, this came up at the last MAG meeting, so we addressed it. Again, we discussed it briefly at the working group meeting. There were no further comments or discussion on it, and I haven't heard any other comments on it. So I think we're looking at the final version here.
Okay, anyone from the committee have questions or comments or further discussion on this section? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
All motion.
This is,
Is that Warren? And,
yeah, that was me. I think it was somebody else as well.
okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second, Ryan. This is Dan.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale, Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Case is a yes. Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale, Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Youngtown. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have it. Unanimous 9-4.
See, we can be productive, I guess, virtually.
That's not bad, right? Again, Jim, we really appreciate all the work you put into these cases. I know that takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
And
thanks to all the working group people too. Again, that's where a lot of the work is done, so.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to case number 19, item number 8, case 19-12, revisions to detail 550. Revisions to detail 550 spillway inlet and outlet to clarify geometry and dimensions. And Carl, you'll give us an update, and this is on the agenda today for possible action. So you can walk us through any of the final changes here, and we'll open it up for questions or comments.
Okay, this detail 550 started out where one of our surveyors had a hard time laying it out because the dimensions, the key control points wasn't clear on the geometry. So we cleaned that up. We gave it very, very distinct dimensions to the certain corner points. And there was one comment about one of the dimensions didn't match the one below, and now it does. It's the 4.8. The 4.8 there matches the one on the section on the spillway down below. There's a 4. I think it used to be 3.6. Just under section AA. Yeah, there it was 3.6. I fixed that to match. And the other thing was on the spillway section, there was some concerns about the erosion getting over the lip and underneath the spillway section. So I added a 12-inch by 6-inch cutoff walls, which I think is good construction and just about anything we do, especially in this desert where we don't have the vegetation taking hold and there's quite a bit of erosion. So I added that. And then the other thing was changing the designation between the inlet and the spillway by using the shading, which I think is more common with the drafting we do these days. This last revision was last revised in 1998. That might have been before we had the CAD type of tools we have to really distinguish, using the shading. And that was about it. I mean, really, it started out just trying to correct the get some correct dimensions of where it could be laid out. And I think we've worked on it quite a bit. And I don't know if I had any other comments on it. So I'd like to. We do have some projects coming up using this detail, so I'd like to get it approved for this year. Are there any questions?
I've got a question for you. So in that spillway section in the middle of the page, I think that's what shows the turn downs you're referring to. There's 6 inches width by 12-inch height.
Yeah.
On the sides there. And are we showing wire mesh in there? And is there any connectivity between those turn downs and the rest of the spillway with that wire mesh? It looks like they're shown separate as separate elements. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think the intent was to be it could be a single pour and a single piece of mesh to go across it and then be turned down. I don't know. I don't know if you can bend mesh that much. It might be a separate piece, but it's somehow tied together.
Any discussion items from anyone else? Questions, comments? Okay, do we have a motion or are we still looking at it?
This is Dave Mobley, all motion.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the case.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Warren. Any other discussion?
That was Jim.
Should we go into the roll call?
I believe Jim seconded the motion.
Oh, Jim? Okay,
Warren's name popped up, but it sounded like Jim.
fair enough. Okay. Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye,
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
I'm calling out the people that aren't here anyway, just give them a chance in case they join in. So El Mirage, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale, Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa's a yes, Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Yes.
Scottsdale, Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Youngtown. Okay, thank you, everybody. Unanimous on that one also. Carl, thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Welcome.
And all these cases that span multiple years, there's a lot of effort that went into them. And Gordon, I think you were instrumental in helping with the drafting on that. So we appreciate your efforts on there also.
I think that was actually all Carl's group.
Oh, really?
I might get to do a little touch up to make it fit in our book.
Well, that's an advance thank you then.
I'll send you the CAD. I'll make sure I send you the CAD file, Warren, or Gordon.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gordon's work comes later.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, new cases for 2020. We have agenda item number 9, case 20-01, miscellaneous corrections. Let's just read through these real quick. So item A is to clarify payment note on detail 251. If I remember correctly, I think we've had discussion on that and decided we're not moving forward with that one. Is that correct?
Yes.
So can we, Gordon, I think we can remove item A then?
Okay.
B is change draft to revise on detail 505 title block. C is make section 787 gray iron castings match manhole frame covers. ASTM 48 class 35 NASHTO M306. E, remove first row of table 714-2 and 715-2. The ASTM V244 test method should have been removed. E, correct typographic error in detail 220-1, note 1, to reference section 340 instead of 304. And item F is to update size of weld beads on detail 393. Are any of these items that need to be discussed further at this time? And if not, are there any other miscellaneous corrections or items to add to our list?
Hey, Ryan, this is Warren. I apologize. Going back to the one I said we can remove, if Gordon wouldn't mind pulling it up real quick. 250, detail 251. Okay. Since the confusion was whether that was meant to be pavement or payment, I think we might have had some conversation to maybe insert the word item in there. So it would be driveway payment item area.
Okay.
That would be maybe my suggestion, since that someone had the confusion.
Okay, any discussion on that?
This is Carl. Is it a pay item or a payment item?
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
The way it's phrased now is payment area. And if we change it to pay item, we can drop the area and it's just pay driveway, pay item. I guess you'd still leave the area, pay item area. I think that's the more common terminology.
Make more sense to me, at least.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. I think item F on this list is this a new item? The well deeds on detail 393?
Yes.
Okay. Can we discuss that and let's talk about what's proposed here?
Sure. This is actually proposed by Craig Sharp. And he was taking a look at this detail, and he first noticed that the welds for this little sleeve were, right now they're showing 1/2 inch, but the sleeve isn't even 1/2 inch. So you can't fit the weld in this area. So he took a look at one of the manufacturer's detail drawings from Oldcastle, and they're using 3/16 inch. This sleeve did not exist on the previous detail. So at some point when this sleeve was added, the welds probably were not the right size and need to be corrected. So he's suggesting that they become 3/16 inch to match the manufacturer's fabrication detail. Also comparing it to the earlier version, which is in the green here, the earlier version had a 3/16 inch weld here, and it got changed to 1/4 inch. And on the bottom, it used to be 1/4 inch, and it got changed to 1/2 inch. So somewhere along the line, these also got changed from the previous drawing, which could have just been an error when it was copied over, because I don't know if people were specifically wanting to change those, but they were just adding the sleeve. So there's some confusion on that as well. So I think he went back to the previous drawing and is recommending to use the 1/4 inch on the bottom instead of a 1/2 inch, and the 3/16 on the top, which is what they were using for the current shot drawing and what was used in the past. So all of these welds here should be corrected to where it's 3/16, 3/16, 3/16, and 1/4 inch. That's my understanding.
Okay, and that we're considering this a blooper case because we're reverting back to what it was in the previous detail on the bottom and top welds, assuming that there was an inadvertent change that was not intended as part of the last revision.
Right. I think that was the, sorry, I think that was where he was coming from. There was some discussion about that in the working groups on whether it should be a separate case or a blooper. And at the time, Craig and Jim, I believe, thought that it was simple enough that it could just be a blooper case.
Okay. Are there any questions from the committee on this particular case? Or any comments? Okay, are we okay leaving it in the miscellaneous corrections? Anyone have concerns with that? Okay, hearing none, then I would propose we have it continue forward in that path.
Sounds good.
Okay, are there any other miscellaneous corrections for this meeting to discuss? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Item number 10, case 20-02, which is to delete detail 346. This was the fire line detector check vault, which is typically no longer used and refers to outdated manufacturers and details. The recommendation is to delete the detail in its entirety. I think we've had multiple discussions on this. Warren, I don't know if there's anything for you to update us on, or if there's anything else we need.
No, I no updates. I have not received any comments. I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay, is there anyone on the committee that has a question or would like to discuss this further? Okay, so we'll propose this for action for the next meeting then, for possible action in the next meeting.
I think it was mentioned in the minutes that for action this time if we wanted to vote on it.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct? Is that correct, Gordon?
Lauren, it may have been, but I didn't put it on the agenda for action today, so I'm sorry we can't vote on it today.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks.
Okay. Well, let's get it on the agenda for the next meeting and go from there. It's a simple change, so if it gets voted to be removed, it'll be a quick change. So I think if it waits till next month, it won't hurt anyone's feelings too much.
Just trying to increase your accomplishments, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. My short watch here, we got a lot done.
Yeah, it's been a good day.
Okay, item number 11, case 20-03, revisions to section 725, Portland cement concrete. The last update was quite a few months ago. This is update language referring to low alkali change mix design submittals to 2 years to modify mix maximum temperature and time limits, correct some spellings and typographical errors. Jeff, do you want to walk us through any recent discussions or updates?
Ryan, I think you did a great job. Thanks. We did discuss this at the working group meeting last week. I did go over it again as Ryan just did, chapter and verse, line by line of the various changes. There was no discussions about any more modifications or any concerns. I haven't received any comments since I received some from the Jose with the City of Phoenix back in March. So I would ask, as I did at the working group meeting, you guys make sure that these have gone through whoever needs to be at your staff, so that if there are any comments or concerns or questions or anything, we can handle them within the next month or so. And at the next meeting, having no additional comments, I'll be asking to put it on the agenda for the September vote at the September meeting.
Okay, excellent. Jose, did you have a chance to review the latest revisions based on your previous comments?
Ryan, there were no revisions based on Jose's comments. I just provided him some clarifications.
Oh, clarification. Okay. All right. Does anyone else on the committee have questions or comments on this case for today? Okay, hearing none, then again, as Jeff requested, let's please go back and have any final discussions and be prepared for next month. We can have any final discussions next month or get them sent out, any questions or comments sent out in advance, so we can have our final discussions and wrap this one up as Jeff requested in September.
Ryan, let me modify that just a little bit. If we don't have any more discussion in the next month or so, I'd like to put it on the agenda for maybe vote at the next meeting. Certainly, if we have more discussions, we can move it to September's.
Okay, so we'll propose possible action for August then, and pending any discussion in the August meeting, we'll either vote or delay it until September.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 12, case 20-04, new section 303 pervious concrete base course, revisions to section 323, and a new pervious concrete pavement detail.
Roy Harrington couldn't attend today's meeting, and this is his case.
Right.
But he sent me the latest draft last week so that I could get it included in the agenda and put it on the cases for this year. I know that he's taken this case both through the outside right-of-way working group and the concrete working group. So I don't know if Peter and maybe Jeff want to kind of summarize what he's put together.
Yeah, I can do that if you want me to, Ryan.
Yes, please.
If you, Roy's done a great job in trying to update, first of all, to put in a new section 303, which talks about the placement of the base course and materials underneath the actual pervious, and then make a few modifications to the current section 323. Some of that is based on information that we've gotten from the NRMCA webinars and from input back from the various cities. We've discussed it in 2 separate meetings at the Materials Concrete Asphalt Working Group. We've had involvement from agencies. We've had testing lab personnel. We've had contractor involvement of probably the prime contractor in the Phoenix market area that has done pervious pavement for at least a decade here in the Valley. Most of the major projects, gotten good input back from him. I think we've pretty well got the language. I think that it's pretty much in the form that we would like it to be. And I know that we would like to have, again, you bring it back to your staffs, have them take a look at it, see if there's any concerns or questions about it. We even got down to wordsmithing a little bit at the last meeting, so I think it's in pretty good shape. He's specifically in section 303, we've tried to put some aggregate sizes in there and some compaction information. We've basically put in some void contents. It's the most important thing when it comes to drainage of this kinds of system. In 323, some really very minor things, but there's been some update of existing ASTM standards. ASTM C140 is currently in there, and that's been updated to ASTM C1754 in a couple of different places. Again, putting some information in there again about voids being very important to this process, whether it's in the pervious or whether it's in the aggregate base underneath. So just, I think it's a good update on most of these things. And again, I would just ask you guys, get it back to your groups, let them give it the once over, and I'm sure Roy would be interested in moving this thing forward. We would really like to, I know that we just submitted it, but we'd really like to make this move forward this year and not carry it over to next year. And I think that's very doable. Oh, I didn't mention, thanks Gordon for pulling that out. He did also put together a pavement design to go into the details section here. Really basic, just to try to give people an idea, a generic kind of application that could be used so that give people an idea of how it should be done. Obviously, that in some situations you're going to have to do some additional engineering, and some of this would not be applicable, but keep in mind our aim is to make this pretty generic and to make it relatively easy to use for a lot of light traffic pedestrian areas that could be utilized quite easily. This material, certainly something like a large park and ride with various different kinds of traffic and so on, would need to have its own engineering done and would probably supersede this in the first place.
And this is Peter. Part of that was to provide some minimums that would be recommended. That wasn't meant to be the final design, but to establish minimum levels.
Yeah, I think the detail is very helpful. Good start.
Is this installed anywhere that we could look at? Anybody?
There's at least 3 major park and rides in the Phoenix area, and there's bits and pieces of things all over the valley, Jim. Glendale has a park and ride that's at Glendale Avenue and the 101. I believe it's Glendale and the 101, which is the oldest one in the valley. Scottsdale's got one in the northeast area, and I think Tempe did one also, where you can actually see some of the pervious that's already been down.
I think there's one.
Okay, I'm just curious to see how it's holding up.
I think there's a new one in Peoria also.
Oh, yes, that's right. The latest one probably, yes, is in Peoria, and they used a different aggregate underneath the pervious itself. I think it, obviously we don't have Glendale's representative, but Glendale's the oldest one. That one's close to 10 years old, I think. That would probably, if you wanted to see how it's holding up, that would probably be a good one to go look at. If when you go over there, being a park and ride, the actual parking areas, where vehicular traffic is parking is pervious. The main lanes down the center portion where the buses, the transit vehicles travel is conventional paving. But there's quite a bit of pervious there for where most of the vehicles park, and it's I think it's had minimal maintenance costs. Again, it might be something you could touch base with someone at Glendale about. I think they've done minimal things on it, and I think it's done really well.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a proposed detail number for that detail yet?
I don't believe there's a number that's been decided yet.
Okay.
No, I think that's, I'm not sure who makes that decision. Is it Gordon? Do we?
We'll have the case sponsor make a recommendation, I guess.
Yeah, we should probably look at the existing details and see, maybe where we have some other asphalt sections where a number that's open in that area is.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or discussion?
Was this going to be in the outside right away section?
No, it's going to be in the main section of MAG, Jim.
Okay.
Just like there's 2 sections that we did a couple of years ago are in there.
All right, good.
I'm looking at the details. Maybe 225 is the pavers. Maybe somewhere between 225 and 230 might be a good place to put it. 230 is sidewalks. As far as the detail number goes.
Okay. Thanks, Carl.
Okay, any thoughts? Okay, let's move on then. Item number 13 on the agenda, new and potential cases. Does anyone have a proposed case at this time? Any future cases that you want to bring up or talk about?
Yeah, they're not ready for prime time yet.
Not yet, huh? Just trying to get the old ones done. Now that you got those voted on, we're going to expect you to come up with the next group.
Oh yeah, we got them coming up, so.
Okay, if there aren't any other new or potential cases, we'll move on to working group reports. And if we want to start with the water sewer working group.
Okay, well, we met on June 23rd through the Zoom platform provided for MAG. You can see there's the minutes there on your screen. So we had a brief discussion. We already talked about this on that pipe sleeve on the valve key. So
Sorry.
we talked about that weld about, so we had some discussion on that. Then we had a ADQ update from John Hunt. So I'm glad that it's still on the table. So hopefully when this COVID stuff goes away, we can get focused on that. But again, it's going to be up to the, I guess it's up to the governor if he wants to open it up. So. And item 4, we had carry forward cases, and we had, like I said, I just discussed the minor adjustments to the 2 cases I had for 1909 and 1911. Really didn't have anything discussed on that. And then item 5, we had some discussion on the utility pothole detail. We're looking to update detail 212. It kind of going to go hand in hand with the spec revisions on 321 that have already occurred. One of the things that we had some discussion on of substantial interest was, are the cities, agencies, is there a sensing to go away from the square potholes and just start requiring the round keyholes? There was discussion about completely eliminating the square, and I'm not sure if we're there yet to completely remove that from the detail, but I'm just curious to see if there's any discussion from any other agencies, if they're leaning towards or would be in favor of eliminating the square completely.
This is Warren. Jim, I'll ask on our end.
Okay. I don't think I'd like to talk to the industry on this before we make that decision. I'm going to contact a few of the companies, pothole companies, some of the bigger ones like Aztec and a couple of the other ones, and just see. I don't think we're there yet, but we definitely want to update the spec and enhance the keyhole. But in Avondale, we're going to try to push a lot harder to just do the keyhole.
Jim, we should probably bring this up at the AUCC meeting.
Yeah, that would be a good place for it, yes.
Also,
This is Peter. I'd suggest you get with Cardno also. They do a lot of the power utility locating. I think a lot of people do locating. I'm not sure they have that, they're doing that yet.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's the other one. That's the other big one I couldn't think of. I want to get in touch with. I want to tell them, look, you kind of see what the market is, or what they're seeing, and just saying, look, we're having issues with the square potholes, and so we're looking at trying to push more for the keyhole and just see what they say. So, yeah, I definitely want to involve the contractors on this.
Jim, this is Brian. I've been asking a few contractors and it was brought up. Obviously, there's limited people who do this right now. They think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I don't know that. I think we can write some language that says, unless approved by, the engineer language right now, that I don't know that we totally eliminate it at this point, but we can get the approval of the agency owner to accept a square for whatever reasons. And as the industry evolves towards that, there'll be more and more people who'll have the keyhole technology, because I think it's very limited at this point.
Yeah, I would agree, Brian. I think it's premature to take it out completely. We could beef it up, like require if it's a saw cut, and then make sure they come back and crack seal the cuts. So I think we can strengthen it if they are gonna continue to use it. But I'm not personally. I'm not in favor of removing it at this time. But I'll get some feedback from the industry, and it looks like you've already done that anyway. So that's kind of the direction I'm headed. So. Anybody else? So that was pretty much the discussion on that item. And then we had other potential cases we're looking at. We're still looking at updating the sampling and testing frequencies for trench backfill. I don't think that's going to be a case this year. Probably too late now anyways. HDPE adjustment rings. Warren, is that something you want to, I think you said you've got that perfected now? Yes, no?
Well, I don't know if perfected is quite the right word, but we have a working detail. And again, it's based on at this point, based on the HDPE or the LADTIC rings. We hadn't had any word from the polypropylene Cretex folks in a while, but basically they didn't have a locking ring, so they were no longer on our approved products list until they do.
I see.
So, but yeah, the detail is still, quote, mag ready if there's interest. Obviously, I had intended to come into the water and sewer working group and talk about it more, but given our situation, it's made it a little more challenging.
All right, well, maybe we can look at that next month or next year.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk, we'll have a couple more meetings this year. We can still talk about it and maybe get ready for next year, so.
That's good. I'll see if hopefully I can make this month's meeting. If I do have a vacation coming up again though, but we'll see. I'll keep you posted, Jim.
Okay, I think we're all on vacation, right? No, just kidding.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. A minor other sewer force mains, pressure testing. It's just something I'll probably bring forward. I need more research on this though. We've gotten some feedback from contractors and engineers about why we need to test a force main so high. Because currently it's tested at the water. We use the water spec at 200 PSI for 2 hours. And I guess most of these force mains operate substantially lower than that. And so there's some concern about why we need to test it that high. So the other one we had a little discussion on was a standard for water wagons, basically for portable facilities, portable tankers that are used to test, disinfect short water runs. I guess the county health code has a section on this, and they actually have a spec on it. So we're going to look into that, but I think it's something we want to add to the 611's testing section, because there is some desire to have something to go to. Some of these contractors show up with some pretty dirty looking tanks, and cities are, at least we've had that happen to us. We got concerns. So we need to figure out and reference a spec that is going to have this stuff tested and probably certified before they hook up to a public water system. So look forward for that. And we had a little discussion on that detail 550 from Carl. And we've got some industries suggesting we need to modify detail 270 spec frame and cover. There's some discussion about the weight. I guess we got some manufacturers that are questioning the spec to see if we can maybe lighten it. And there's some ASTM specs I think we need to update too that have been changed. So we're looking at that with industry right now. But I don't think there's any interest in lightening making these the lid especially lighter because of the issue of having the lid fly off or getting sucked up or whatever. So anyways, that's some of the stuff we're looking at. What's encouraging about these meetings, guys, if you don't come, is we really get the industry involved, contractors and manufacturers. So it's good to get them involved, so we're not, writing a spec without their knowledge or without their input.
Good. Now, Jim, is the next working group meeting next month at the regularly scheduled time, and will it be a virtual Zoom meeting or something?
Yeah, that's the plan, to be Tuesday, July 21st at 1:30. So,
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
all right, thanks.
Can we hear from the asphalt materials and concrete working groups?
Yes, you guys have the meeting notes in your packet. We've talked about two of the three items that we discussed at the meeting. One being the current case 2003 on section 725, and the other was the new case 2004 now that Roy has put forward on two pervious sections in the detail. But there was Ryan and Kyle with the City of Mesa brought up another new business item, and Ryan, I'm not going to try to talk about it. If you can, if you feel comfortable enough to try to talk about what our discussion was.
Yeah, I'll give a little synopsis here. I'm certainly not the expert either, but our inspections group here in the City of Mesa have recently started to express some concern with some of the labs that have been proposing quality control testing on some of our city projects and their qualifications. So Kyle, who's one of our inspectors, has a lot of years experience working in labs. I think he said something like 17 years. So he kind of started discussing these with us. We wanted to bring this to the working group first to kind of get some dialogue with the larger group to see if there's any interest in pursuing a case. And so we haven't quite gotten to that point yet. But the idea is that the testing laboratories, the independent testing laboratories, are generally certified through AASHTO, but there's various subsections of the testing that they're required to meet for different tests. But in the MAG specifications right now, it's just the general overarching AASHTO certification that's required, and the subsection testing requirements aren't spelled out as explicitly as they might be, or that we might want them to be, that have more detailed requirements for certification and different testing types for the different materials, whether it be aggregates or concrete or pavement or other materials. So that was the discussion we've had. We're going to reach out and do a little bit more discussion and internal research on that before we propose a case, but we wanted to at least start that dialogue.
We had a good all-around discussion because we had testing lab staff there and suppliers who also have similar, if not exactly the same levels of certifications, obviously agency staff too. So it was a good general discussion about the subject, understanding that it might be an interesting undertaking because there'd be, I think, did you identify 20 some odd places in the MAG specifications where these things are mentioned that we might have to deal with?
Yeah, there were, because it touches on so many broad ideas of testing and quality control, it does hit a lot of different sections. So we're looking at possibly treating those individually or maybe universally through some language at the beginning under definitions or some other sections, and stating some requirements for labs early on. So that we're not quite ready to present a case for the whole group yet, but we are continuing that discussion and review.
So to finalize the meeting notes, our next meeting will be back to our normal schedule, which will be Thursday, July 16th. We'll use the format that we used was through the ARPA staff, since that's where we normally meet, and it was a go-to-meeting format. We'll utilize that again, another virtual meeting, not knowing what situation we might be in our current pandemic scenarios. So we'll stay virtual again and have our meeting on July 16th. We'll send that information out to you guys hopefully a week before so that you have that.
Great, thank you. Can we hear from the outside right-of-way working group?
Yes, this is Peter. We had a call yesterday. We had quite a few people get on that. It was done, the issue was very good. And Reichman set it up through the Microsoft Groups meeting system, and we were able to kind of reintroduce everybody to what's going on and try to get things kicked back into gear in a virtual environment. You've already heard the presentation on the placement of the impervious concrete, the concrete detail. That one is kind of moved out of our group, I think more toward the concrete work and materials working group. I think that's it was a good genesis that we were able to find. We started talking about some of the other cases now that that one's moved kind of off and going. Other ones we're trying to get moving forward, and I think the one that has the most impetus right now is going to be dealing with vegetated or rock bioswales. If you want to think of those as retention basins that would promote the plants clean water. And it's at the stage right now we have a fairly concise detail that we put together that the group has been working on. There's a draft specification drafted as kind of a generic 640 spec. The intent on this one, I think, is more going to be in a section or outside right-of-way document. But one of the things that generated from this was a reference to plants and or landscaping, and it started a discussion on the potential to upgrade and or change, modify, add to the landscape specification 795 that's in the current mag that has not been touched forever. And I think that one probably elicited a lot of discussion in terms of breaking off and starting to pull in landscape architects to try to assist with that. We had Trace Baker, who is with one of the consulting firms, and with Steve Kesty, and they're going to put together kind of a subgroup primarily composed of those interested in landscape architects to look at taking the landscape specification and instead of trying to incorporate everything in, say, a bioswale or a vegetative one, start looking at that in terms of all the aspects of what we have in the landscape standard. We've also talked about the potential, maybe there should be one, modify the existing or improve the existing 795, maybe there should be one specifically for outside right-of-way. We're going to investigate that. And also dealing with easements, there was a discussion on some of the work SRP has in their specifications for vegetation in right-of-way or in easements. So I think we kind of got something new generated from that discussion. And we're going to be, I think, looking into it. We're going to try to report back about a week in advance, see what everybody's put together in terms of that. Eric Bonds from the city of Tempe hasn't made progress yet because of the COVID situation on the sediment trap detail. He's going to try to see what's going to go on that and see if he can move forward. Same problem with curb cuts with Steve Kesty. And so those ones are, I don't want to say on hold, but going to be more difficult to move forward. The other ones we talked about moving forward, and I think this is one where Paul had brought this up before, the detention tanks. I'm going to take that one on, I think, personally, and start looking at that underground detention tanks again and start pulling in companies like Contact and see if we can look at the different opportunities or options with. I know it's going to be hard to go away from the corrugated metal because that's such a standard that's being used, but there's so many better materials out there. I'm going to take that one on and try to have something by the middle of this month, at least outlined on where we can go and how we can get there. Same thing on the dry wells. I'd like to start resurrecting the dry well details we've started a year or so ago and see if we can resurrect those and start those moving forward. We had quite a lot of discussion just with those specific topics. I didn't know if anybody had any comments who was on that call yesterday, or but we have our next meeting scheduled for July 23rd. It'll be again a virtual one, and ASU has again offered to host it through Microsoft Teams again. Any ideas or anything, please feel free to get with me, and we'll try to get a meeting notice out early enough to where we can get more participation from the committee members.
Hey, Peter, it's Jim. That, the detention tank, that's gonna be a tricky one, because there's a lot of different systems out there, like that, I don't know if you're familiar with that ADS system, it's like a arch system, it's like HDPE, they're like yellow, big yellow arches, and
Yep.
it's, so, I don't know, that's gonna be a tough one to corral, because there's so many different systems out there.
Yeah, you now see why I haven't wanted to jump all over this, but it's got to start. We've got to get moving on it.
The only other thing I'd say from the industry, from what agencies, or at least what we're dealing with, is dry wells is always a changing topic, and the backflows too, so.
Yeah, we may have to put the backflow preventers off for just a little bit while the world is the way it is right now, because I'll need some help on that.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, we do have the fairly large group still, and we've got this opportunity to look at the low impact development. And I think a lot of this, like the landscape spec, realize that is directly relatable to low impact development type work that's going on. We can really bring that into the 21st century very nicely.
Good.
Hey, one comment on the detention tanks. I think most of us can probably attest with the corrugated metal, you know, that it may be a good system, and even if installed properly, which a lot of the failures we've seen are improper installation, maybe not draining properly into a dry well, water sitting in it. But often, even when they're designed properly, it's the maintenance. You have to maintain, you have to clean them out. And that's the problem, is even though it's stated in O&M manuals and so on for property owners, they're just not maintaining them. So it's subject to failure because of that is one of the primary issues with that corrugated metal. Yes, you know, you can, and they don't want to spend the money to provide and put the coating on it to provide extra protection. But so therein lies the main problem. It's the maintenance.
And I think you've got, I've heard the same thing too, that do we really want to stick with CMP? Do we want to, as a group, really stand behind that? And I think if we do, we're going to have to get some good engineering solutions for those items. Otherwise, if somebody's going to use it, just stick CMP pipe in the ground, they're doing it at their own risk. I was going to get with Greg Creaser over at Speedy. I know he's had a number of investigations. He has quite a bit of background on that. I need to talk to him about it.
Definitely.
Okay, any more discussion from the outside right-of-way group? Okay, we can hear from Jose on City of Phoenix supplement to MAG.
This is Gordon. I'm not sure if Jose was actually attended that meeting, but I did attend it. And essentially, it sounds like the City of Phoenix is done reviewing the supplements that are specifically replacing MAGs, and are now moving on to the parts that are just additions to MAG. And I did include the minutes that they sent me after the meeting. Those are posted on the meeting webpage. So if you want to get a quick summary of the different Phoenix details they're looking at now, you can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, are there any other items for general discussion?
One thing I think we might want to discuss is whether to extend the deadline for new cases this year or not. I know we canceled a couple meetings. Normally July is the last month to submit new cases. So I wanted to bring it up to the committee to see if they think that an extension would be worthwhile. But it would probably depend on if people think that they have a case that could be ready within the next month or two and want to get it in this year and not wait till next year. But I'll kind of leave that up for you guys to discuss.
So as we discussed the different things today, I didn't hear any cases that seem to be that close, but let's open that up for discussion. Is there anyone that thinks they'll have a case ready to submit within the next month or two?
Not on our end.
I don't think so from the materials working group either.
Yeah, our concern on the outside right away was getting the pervious pavement one up and running. So as long as that's in the queue, we're good.
Okay, then Gordon, I'm going to suggest we don't extend the deadline. I'm not hearing any cases that are proposed to be brought forward, so I suggest we maintain our historic standard of this being the last month for introduction of cases.
What about extending meetings into maybe November, October, November?
Any thoughts by members of the committee? There's a, is there, go ahead.
Brian, I would say that, you know, several of us are trying to get their cases through, and I think we're in pretty good shape on certainly the two that are in the materials group. We'd like to be able to get those cases completed this year and not have to hold them over another year. So I think we'll be able to do that within the existing framework, even with the lost meetings that we've had. But if it meant one more meeting, I think we'd like to do that to get those completed this year. I don't think we'll have to do that, but I think we'll just have to play it by ear at this point.
If I look at the current cases, we've talked about telecommunications, which is proposed for action, miscellaneous corrections, the deletion of detail 346, which is proposed for action, and then the Portland cement concrete one and the pervious concrete one that you just mentioned, Jeff. I'm not seeing cases necessarily that are going to extend out. We can always leave that option open to extend one additional month if needed to address those last couple cases. But at this time, it seems like we're going to finish on our regular schedule. Is there anyone that sees it differently? Okay. So Gordon, again, I propose that at least at this time, we just maintain our normal schedule of meetings. And if something changes next month, we can reevaluate it.
Yeah, and if there is a case that it looks like it needs to go into October for another month, I should still have plenty of time to get the final corrections out to the other committees and review, you know, and get ready for the final publication. That shouldn't be a problem on my end.
Great, appreciate that. Okay, are there any other items for the discussion of the group?
I just had a quick question on a couple phone numbers because it doesn't say your name. Whose number ends in 445?
That's Peter. That's me, Gordon.
And whose number ends in 483?
That's me, Matthew Bryan.
Okay, I've got you both. Thank you.
Excellent. If there's nothing further, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
All motion.
Thank you, Jim. Second?
I'll second. Dave Mobley.
Thank you, David. Gordon, do we need to do a roll call vote or are we just good?
You don't need to do a vote on the adjournment.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Guys, take it easy. Bye.
Good job, Ryan.
Thank you.
Nice kitchen.
Yes, thanks, Ryan, for filling in for Craig, and you did a great job. So I have no worries about you hosting the meetings in the future as well.
All right.